What's going on, guys? Josh here from Momentum Productions, and today I'm going to be showing you how to balance your DJI Ronin-S gimbal along with the 16-35 f4 Zeiss lens and the Sony A7S. Before you watch the rest of this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to my channel with notifications on. So first things first, we want to remove the quick release plate. We want to loosen up the tensioner here on the left side. Then we press the safety release notch, and the plate will slide off just like that. Now you'll notice on the quick release plate we have markings here. Once we mount this quick release plate onto our gimbal, make sure you memorize those markings if you're using the same camera setup in the future. That way your balancing process will be a lot easier. So when mounting this on the camera, you want to make sure that the lens support area is facing the front, also where this little arrow is printed. Next, mount the quick release system onto your camera. I recommend mounting it in the center. Then tighten up the quick release plate with a coin or tool and slip it onto the quick release system. And don't forget that with this design, you want to slide it in from the back of the quick release plate, not from the front. You're going to hear a safety click right now. That means that the quick release plate is locked into the quick release system, meaning that you can't simply slide it out. Now right now we faced a little bit of a problem. You'll notice that the quick release plate here is colliding with the roll motor. That means that we have to take off the camera and re-center up our quick release plate. We need to push it a little bit more to the front. So let's take it off the gimbal. Remember to press the quick release notch here and then slide it right out. Let's then loosen up the quick release plate and push it more forward. Yeah, right about there. Let's tighten it up. Okay, same process as before. Let's slip it back onto the quick release system. All right, and let's start the balancing process again. Since the camera is pointing forward, I want to counteract that by pushing the camera back. Just like that. You want to push the camera back until it stops wanting to tilt forward or backward. Once we have that set, we can lock up the quick release plate. You should definitely use two hands when balancing because you can use your right or left hand to help prop up the other motors when you're balancing one specific axis at a time. As you can see here, the tilt is basically balanced. We have another adjustment that we have to make in order to make it perfect. But as of right now, let's focus on the roll motor. As you can see right now, the roll axis is not balanced. This is the roll axis. The camera wants to flop over to my right. We need to counteract that by pushing this whole arm over to the left. So let's loosen up this adjustment and push it over to the left. These need to be micro adjustments, one little push at a time. Keep pushing it over until it's perfectly centered. Use two hands. One should be pushing and one should be supporting. Almost. And perfect. We can lock it up. Now we have another tilt adjustment, and that is this arm right here. We want to check its balance first, and the best way to do that is to point the camera up vertically and then gently let it go. It feels like the camera wants to flop forward. Now because I've been using gimbals for a while now, I know immediately that's because that this arm is set to way too low. Now this adjustment is the most difficult on the Ronin-S, simply because of the metal on metal friction. So you want to use two hands to help take off some of the camera's weight, and that's the best way you can make this adjustment. You want to make this adjustment until the camera wants to remain pointed up without your help. So keep pushing it up. Almost there. And perfect. Now let's check our tilt in general. All right, our camera now wants to flop forward. So this is going to have to relate to the quick release plate, simply because I know that the camera wants to remain pointing up without flopping over. And if you notice, our roll axis has become unbalanced, so we have to work on that after this as well. So now we need to loosen up the quick release plate, and because the camera wants to point forward or flop forward, we want to counteract that by pushing it back. There we go, that's perfect. We can lock it up now, and let's test the other arm as well, the other adjustment. As you can see here, the camera wants to remain pointing up, so everything is now perfect with our tilt. However, now we have to fix the roll axis. Let's loosen up the tensioner and counteract the weight, making the camera go from right to left. Micro adjustments, guys, that's very important. Okay, as you can see, that was a little bit too far, so let's fix that. Always use two hands, guys. There we go. That should be about good. Lock it up. Good, so now we have our tilt balanced and our roll axis. There is one more important axis that you have to remember to balance, and that is the pan. How do we balance the pan? The quickest way to check its balance is to lift up the gimbal and tilt it to its side. Does the camera want to spin like it's doing now, or does it want to stay still? Our goal is to make the camera stay still. So this adjustment is just like the other axes. We want to use the trial and error process. So let's push the arm back and let's see what happens. Lock it up, pick it up, tilt it. As you can see, the camera just wants to flop. So let's fix this here. Let's see what happens when we push the arm forward. Don't make massive adjustments, micro adjustments. That's what's going to get this balance done properly. Pick it up, tilt it. Almost perfect. So I know that by pushing the arm forward with my current setup, that's what's making this balance happen. So tiny adjustments, lock it up, pick up the gimbal and lean it to its side. There we go. Now it wants to stay centered. So now the pan axis is properly balanced. So once the pan is balanced, it looks like our whole entire gimbal is now balanced. Now DJI included a little balance test in their application, so let's take a look at that, and that will tell us if our balance is done right. So to start the test, let's first turn on our gimbal. Next, let's go to our Ronin app and connect the gimbal. Awesome, we're connected. Then tap on Configuration, Settings, More, and Balance Test. It's running the test right now on the gimbal to make sure that all of the axes are balanced properly. Here's our result. Tilt is balanced excellent, roll excellent, and pan is excellent. That means our gimbal is properly balanced. All right, we can hit OK. And another thing I do recommend that you do is to run a motor power test. Let's tap motor parameters and then hit auto tune. You'll notice that the gimbal will start to shake or do some weird noises. That's perfectly normal. It's just checking to make sure that the motors are set to proper power. Awesome. The test is complete, and now I know that the motors have enough power for this camera setup. Now that your gimbal is properly balanced, you can use it flawlessly. And don't worry, I'm gonna have a ton of tutorials coming for the DJI Ronin-S and gimbals in general. Alright guys, I'll see you in the next video. Peace!